Hi, this is Ranger Jonah with DeKalb County, and I am so excited. I've been waiting for this day to make a video about pawpaws. Just the other day, I was able to plant a couple pawpaw trees in my backyard, and I've got one right here, and then right next to it, another small one right there. It wasn't so long ago that I didn't know what a pawpaw was. And then I read this amazing book called Pawpaw. Pawpaw, In Search of America's Forgotten Fruit, is written by Andrew Moore, and it got me so excited about this tree. I learned how to identify it, and I'll show you some tips when I'm out among some bigger trees in just a few. I learned how to identify it, and then I started seeing it everywhere. So pawpaw is a tree that will grow sometimes almost 30 feet tall. Usually they're about 10, 15 feet tall. And they grow in shady areas along river or creek corridors. There is another pawpaw, a dwarf pawpaw, which grows all over Mason Mill Park, but it never grows much higher than these trees, which are about 5 feet tall right here. If this tree gets enough sunlight right here, it'll grow into a full-size one and hopefully fruit. A couple fun facts about the pawpaw tree are that, one, it doesn't really have any natural pests. So pawpaws are really, really easy to grow organically because there's just not anything that really eats it or destroys its fruit. So you don't have to use pesticides, and it's kind of naturally organic. The other thing is it's a host plant for the zebra swallowtail butterfly, which is a really neat thing. And then the other thing I've learned is that pawpaws are notoriously hard to get to pollinate each other, probably because the insects that pollinate them aren't just the common butterflies and bees. I'll tell you more about that later. What I'm expecting I'm going to have to do is come out here with a paintbrush and paint the pollen from one flower on this plant onto a flower on this tree right here, so that I can hopefully someday in a few years get some pawpaws of my own in my own yard. But for now, I'm ready to go get some fruit, so come on with me. All right, I just pulled up at my little pawpaw grove here after having bicycled over to it, and let me show you these leaves. They're just like the ones that you saw at my house. And remember, there are some lookalikes to pawpaws. But once you get a good grasp of looking for these leaves, it won't be hard to find. The ones that I oftentimes get mixed up with are black gum or black tupelo. That's one that has a similar shaped leaf, but it's not as clearly alternate in how the leaves are set up. And then the other one I sometimes get mixed up with is hickory. But hickory always has a leaf coming out of the end of the leaflet, so that's something that you won't see on pawpaw either. But the main thing you'll see on pawpaw at this time of year is the fruit. Let me see if I can find some and show it to you. Can you see any pawpaw fruit? There's one right there. Do you see from the shape how someone might want to call it a banango, a mix between a mango and a banana? But the thing to do at this time of year is look on the ground. There's a small pawpaw here, and another one. Oh, and a couple more over here. Because when they are ripe, they will fall. I'll make a little stack. Ooh, this one looks real nice. They oftentimes get bruised up. Oh, and there's one that came down right above me. Almost hit me. And another couple. Even these tiny ones, these will taste good. Oh, and here's another. As you can see, it didn't take long for me to make my whole breakfast right here. Now the trees that I'm among right here, these are not just growing wild in the forest, obviously, since there's a truck driving right behind me. But pawpaws typically grow natively in this area, usually along river or stream banks. They are sucker trees. So one tree will then sprout out a new sucker. And the thing about pawpaws is they can't self-pollinate. So there has to be two genetically different pawpaw trees growing near enough to each other so that the insects that pollinate them can actually pollinate them. Well, these were planted here and they're growing in the sun. So they've grown very big and are producing quite beautiful fruit. Pawpaw fruit usually grow in clusters, and this is a good example of a pawpaw cluster right here. See how there's multiple fruits all in one area? And there are a few farmers that try to grow these commercially. They cost a lot because of the shipping. These are very delicate fruit. And so the pawpaw farmers, they have figured out a system where they can get these pawpaws before they hit the ground. Because the pawpaws I just collected off the ground, well, they're gonna be slightly bruised, and even though I am gonna think they're delicious, would I purchase them for $15 to $20 a pound from a farm store or a farm stand or a store? Maybe, maybe not. So if you want to produce these commercially, you really got to be precise about when you pick your pawpaws. They won't ripen on the shelves. So they have to ripen on the tree. So you have to catch them just when they're ripe, but not before they hit the ground. A couple other things I love about pawpaws is that though this looks like a tropical fruit, the pawpaw is a subtropical fruit, and it does grow natively here. And when you eat one, you'll see that it does have a little bit of that papaya-ish flavor. The other thing that's super interesting about pawpaws is that the flowers that eventually produce these fruits, they open a little bit later in the spring than many other flowers. And what they're trying to get to come pollinate them is not beautiful butterflies and bumblebees, but instead it's carrion beetles, ants, and flies that like rotting stuff. So if you ever sniff a pawpaw flower, it's a pretty flower, but it doesn't smell very good. Now that I've spent a little time among these pawpaw trees and collected a few of these freshly fallen pawpaws, I'm gonna gather them up, put them in my pocket, just like the song said, bring them home, and then I'll show you how we eat some pawpaws. I just had to show you guys how I decided to carry my pawpaws home. In my park ranger hat. I think this makes me officially a pawpaw ranger. Back home, and still got a hat full of pawpaws. Now it's time to eat them. Let me show you the way I was taught how to eat these pawpaws. Okay, well, here's a pawpaw. I kind of am choosing what I hope is the choicest one. It's a nice size, nice shape, and this is how I was taught to eat it. First, I cut it all the way around, long ways. And then I twist it open. Oh yeah, that looks really, really good. Now you see there's these large seeds inside here. Those seeds, of course, are not edible, but you can suck the flesh off of them, or just take it out and then grab some of this sweet, almost mango or cantaloupe looking flesh and yeah, that's a really good fruit. Well, I hope that you learn a little bit about pawpaws, maybe grow to love them, and then if you find one, go ahead and have a wonderful breakfast of pawpaws that you picked yourself. This is Ranger Jonah with DeKalb County and a fistful of pawpaws, signing off.